Okay, how do we help students that find maths difficult? I think one of the problems with education in the past has been that often maths is seen as a subject which you must memorise to get right answers. And I think the key to helping people get on better with maths is to take a very different approach. And that's an approach which focuses on supporting understanding. Would you agree?
Also, yeah, I totally agree. And I also think another problem is there's a bit of a stigma about making mistakes and getting stuck on a mathematical problem. And in a way, it's good to share the idea that it's normal to make mistakes, because even professional mathematicians do that, and it's normal to get stuck, not know how to approach a question, how to find an answer. And in a way, it is good to, mistakes are a very important part of learning, because one could learn through a mistake more than they could learn through getting something right the first time they try. So yeah, it's good to find the value of learning through mistakes.
Well, I think, of course, I agree in many ways. One of the things I thought I might call your attention to is that in this question of students who give up on mathematics in Korea, so this is almost, in Korea, it's regarded as almost a social issue that many students just give up at some stage. Well, I was wondering what you thought about similar phenomena here in the UK. I mean, do a lot of students just give up on mathematics? Say, for example, in secondary school?
Yes, I think particularly in secondary schools, would you say that there is quite a feeling that maths is a hard thing and it's not unusual to give up on it and to not manage it. It's kind of socially acceptable here to say that you're not good at maths.
Right, I see.
And that's a great problem, I think, in the culture in this country, and I think you've probably come across that too.
Yeah, quite a few times when visiting schools or when doing events for the public.
I see. So are you almost saying that students give up on maths, but it's almost regarded as okay to do so?
Yes, I think so, and that is a huge problem. I'm not saying that blatantly that teachers would say that, but in an attempt to be supportive and caring to learners, it would often be said to people that weren't being successful, that's all right, don't worry, it's very hard, not everybody likes it, I wouldn't be good at that either. And I think that's a pity, rather than to accept difficulty and say, well, it's something worth struggling with, because there's reward when you can overcome the struggle.
Well, I also think a struggle with mathematics related to other disciplines is that it really builds on different parts of mathematics build on each other. So in a way, if there's no deep understanding of the foundations, if some of the foundations are missing, then it's difficult to go to the next step. And in a way, sometimes if someone finds it hard, then maybe the thing to do would be take a step back, go back to the foundation. But it would be the most effective thing, but it doesn't look like that at the time. At the time when you find it hard, it might be one of the reasons why a lot of people struggle. Maybe there's just something missing before.
One of the big debates in Scotland at the moment is about how to adjust the teaching for different learners, to adjust to people's abilities and previous knowledge. And of course we have to, as teachers, assess where a learner is and try and help them where they are and find out what would help them to make the next steps forward. But the traditional way that's done, particularly in secondary schools in Scotland, is to put people in classes according to their perceived ability. So there'll be a top class and a middle class and a bottom class, or maybe more than that. And the people who end up in the bottom classes then have a big message that you are not good at maths, you can't do it. And then many of them become very disaffected and don't want to participate in mathematics anymore. And some teachers believe this is the only way to teach effectively by putting people into different classes, and others would argue that that this is doing a lot of harm, that mixed ability classes would be much more effective. It's a difficult question, and there's a lot of disagreement in educational circles at the moment, and no easy answers really. But people experimenting with trying to find different ways of catering for a range of different learners in one class together.
Right. Well, one thing I wondered is about this question of struggle, right? With students that I meet at many different levels, isn't it also somewhat important to normalize the struggle in some way?
But probably for most people who end up studying math at university, there's a clashing point at university where you're coming from school where everything was fairly easy, university level mathematics, where at some point you struggle sooner or later, and you have to get to grips with the fact that it's not that it's normal to struggle. So in a way, it's not anymore about applying procedures that you have seen in the past, but it's more about finding yourself the formula and finding out why it works and making your own conjectures and try to understand whether your conjectures are right or wrong. And through this process, you do get stuck inevitably. It would be great to teach mathematics and convey mathematics from school, from very early age, not as a subject where you need to learn concepts and memorize concepts and then apply the methods you memorize, but teach mathematics as something that involves creativity and that involves logical skills and problem solving. It is a very difficult question. In a way, the traditional form of exams, which is written exams with a time limit, sometimes they may end up being a test of memory and a test of how people can keep their nerves and cope with stress more. I think it is quite normal to lose interest in a subject because of exams. In a way, it would be great and ideal to find a different form of exams, a bit of a kind of continuous assessment rather than a one-off written paper. But on the other hand, then many questions arise on how you would mark that. I would say, coming from the Italian system, there, both at secondary school and at university, every exam would have two forms. There was a written part and then an oral part. And I found that a very good way of examining people, because different people with different personalities may prefer and perform better on the written part or on the oral part. And also the oral exam trains students to make an argument and to present their reasoning and their arguments.
And I think that's a big part of the problem, isn't it? That the exams are what's the purpose of exams? Exams are partly end of school exams are to tell universities or employers, this person is really good at maths, this person is not so successful. So it's very important to have a kind of verifiable system for doing that is seen to be impartial. And that means then we're reduced to kind of very, very controlled kind of written exams often, in this country anyway. But these are not good for the whole education system.
I think the problem would arise when the exam paper itself becomes too predictable in a way that then people think that in order to study and to know the course material and then they start studying for the exam and just to try past papers, because that would kind of prevent people from learning any other part of the content that does not appear in the exam.
And just focus on answers rather than the thinking behind them and understanding behind them. And you can be very successful in exams without deep understanding, I think, if it's a predictable exam.
Yeah.
Of course, yeah. Well, here's a kind of question. It's a slightly provocative question, right?
Okay.
I think we've already alluded to two different things that we end up doing, right? One is we're trying to educate them, give them skills, understanding, knowledge. Okay? And the other, we also end up certifying students for employers, for universities, for whatever else they do with their education, right? Suppose we completely removed the problem of this need for certification. And we said that, suppose that we were ideally just trying to educate them, teach them mathematics, right? Would you get rid of exams altogether? Would you? You would?
I definitely would.
Yeah, Francesca?
I don't know. I think I would test people in a different way. So maybe there would be an end of year exam, but it wouldn't weigh as much. So it wouldn't weigh 100%, and I would give most of the weight to examinations that people would do throughout the year. So to continuous examination, and also I would give space for independent projects where people can go and explore topics of their interest on their own.
I think the idea of independent projects is a good one. Mm-hmm. That somebody could be working on mathematics through the year, and the things they're proud of, the investigation that they did, that they thought, I really learned something there, I'm really proud of this, I can write it up and present it, then that could be put in a portfolio, and that can be a representation of their work and achievements for the year, to show the parents, to show the other people. And it can be I suppose that gives the motivation perhaps that you were talking about, that assessment sometimes can give.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, that would be a more motivational device without the assessment in some form. One concern that I've heard actually from high school teachers in Korea that I've spoken to was that they've also, in Korea, there are also quite a few experiments with different, say, semesters of creative learning or things of this sort. And one concern that I've heard was that some of them felt like the students that are already motivated do very well with these things. But the ones who don't like mathematics, actually, it serves them even worse. Yeah.
Yes, I can see that would be a problem. Could be a problem. But then maybe it's too late. Maybe we should be doing these things a bit when the children are younger, before they get switched off.
Earlier on, I sent you this article, or rather a report from the Brookings Institute. I don't know if you got it. That table that I showed you, I think, was rather interesting, where they were measuring motivation for studying mathematics as measured among children in different countries. And that table was somewhat troubling, even in some sense, that the countries where the students were very high performing, they seemed to be the least motivated. That was rather odd, wasn't it?
Although these things are quite, they're not very nuanced indicators.
Of course,
it was answers to a question that was
Right.
something like, was it maybe like something like, how much do you want to go to your look forward to going to your next maths class, or something like that.
Yeah, all
so
such
it's not very
surveys.
subtle.
Of course,
and I think that the kind of culture in the country, our society and its culture probably affects quite a lot how children answer a question.
Oh, of course, yeah.
So if you're 15-year-old and someone says, do you enjoy maths? Do you look forward to your next maths class? I think it wouldn't be very cool to say yes in our culture, which is a pity.
I think maybe just this part where we started talking about the culture of this class in mathematics. Because I think what you were saying is that there is a certain culture of the way children or students talk about mathematics that doesn't necessarily reflect their intrinsic motivation in some way, right? Yeah.
Yes. So there's been a lot of concern about that, hasn't there?
Yeah, so as we were saying, in a way it is, there's a lot of negative feelings towards mathematics, and in a way it is socially acceptable to say, oh, I don't like mathematics, or I've never been good at mathematics. So this is one of the reasons why about 5 years ago the Scottish government started an initiative called Math Week Scotland, and basically it is a focal week which is usually at the end of September, where all Scottish institutions, schools, universities, libraries are called to run activities that are aimed at showing the beauty of mathematics. There's also a competition organized by the University of Glasgow, which is about taking pictures and aimed at showing mathematical concepts. So in a way, see the mathematics around us.
Around us in real life.
Yeah,
yes.
in real life, yeah.
Yes. So I think that all just is a reflection of the fact there is concern about the kind of overall culture of negativity towards maths, and quite a lot of effort to try and change that.
I see.
But it's not an easy thing to do, and it'll take a long time, I think.
I see.
Yeah. Something that a lot of teachers talk about, especially primary teachers, and it was one of the themes of Math Week in the past, was outdoors education. So in a way, teaching mathematical concepts outdoors so that the children can learn in a different environment and can see the mathematics see mathematical concepts in unconventional ways and link them to things and objects that we see around us.
What can we do to make people enjoy maths more?
One of the ways may sound obvious, but show the breadth of mathematics. So when I go to schools and ask children, what do you think mathematics is? If you think of mathematics, what's the first word that comes to your mind? Then the first answer I get is, as you may guess, numbers, additions, subtractions, long divisions, but formulas, equations. Most of the answers I get are related to numeracy or algebra. People are surprised if you tell them that math is not all about numbers. So it's good to show the breadth of mathematics beyond numeracy and show other areas of mathematics, such as logic or geometry or game theory or statistics that is linked to numeracy. However, it is very applied and can pick people's interest. Summarizing, I think showing the breadth of mathematics and that math is much more than numeracy is a way to raise interest in mathematics. I think saying I don't like mathematics would be similar to saying I don't like movies. I mean, there must be at least one movie that you like.
But maybe not everybody's had the chance to encounter
other areas of mathematics. Yeah. I've been actually running a workshop a few times in schools, which is it's based on a simple but challenging strategy game, which is basically, it goes up to starts very basic, and then as you move up level, it gets more and more challenging. And the game is based on geometry, and all the strategies are really geometric. But it's funny that I would enter the class, ask the question, do you like math? And then most of the class saying, no, it's boring. And then at the end of the workshop, children would engage, would also kind of get into the game and really into the strategy and really grasp deep concepts even without knowing. And then at the end of the workshop, I would ask, so Did you have fun today? Yes. So do you think we did maths? No, we were just playing.
I think the other big thing is that teachers' approaches need to be focusing on doing mathematics with understanding, not just memorising. And we've mentioned that already, but I think it's so important and central to everything. Unless we learn mathematics in a way that we understand, then we can't apply it, we can't use it, we can't do problem solving with it. Understanding something can give a lot of pleasure and excitement and satisfaction. And that's often denied to children because they're given a kind of maths where they have to just memorise things. And they don't really understand why, they just memorise facts. Which goes back to what you were saying about maths being facts and skills and numbers.
I mean, I suppose this relates to a lot of work that both of you do, but one answer to that question, the original question, right? It's not really an answer, but I think it's a kind of an answer, is that we want teachers to be very enthusiastic about mathematics, right?
Yes.
Do you find this a difficult task?
Because they've often had a less good experience and not very good experience themselves in learning.
I see. Mm-hmm.
So how do we change that? It's quite a hard work, but it's an important piece of work to be done, I think. And nice also to be in a position where we can.
Yes. Also, back to what we were talking about before, teaching towards exams is not something very exciting to do. So if the aim of a student is getting through exams and the aim of the goal of the teacher is making sure that all students pass the exam and pass the exam with good marks, then that I think that in a way takes away the fun of teaching and also the fun of learning.
So if we can get the focus away from exams, if we can try to have a system where it isn't written exams that are driving everything else, then it could make a big difference.
But that's I suppose that's quite difficult, right?
Yes, quite difficult. But there is a review going on at the moment, and it will be very interesting to see what the outcome is.
We were discussing about the pure side versus application earlier, but I don't know whether we should go into that or not, because it's a huge philosophical
the
debate.
Justification for teaching maths in the curriculum, whether pure maths has a place as well as the more basic maths that you need for life or for work or for study.
I suppose one could do a very concrete version of that question, because this comes up in Korea often. So, should students be taught calculus or something?
Yes.
And if so, why? What do you think?
Well, okay, I've learned calculus at school, so I would tend to say yes, and because why? Well, it turns out to be very useful in many STEM subjects, physics first of all. But then you may wonder, what if I don't want to do any physics or any STEM subjects in my life? And I don't know. I can see points on both sides, and I think in general there's a tension between teaching because it's useful and teaching just for knowledge. I mean, to help people gain knowledge. So should we teach something only if it is useful for someone's future? But then if we do that, then what would be the point of teaching philosophy or literature, for example? And in a way, mathematics resembles art. So one may think we shouldn't teach this parts of mathematics because it's not useful, but then, so should we also stop teaching art? So I think there is a real danger in saying that we should only teach things that are useful to everyday life, because that would stop us from teaching parts of art, philosophy, and what took our society to what is today.
I suppose among other things, the students themselves don't know what they're going to do in the future, right?
Yes, yes, yes.
We don't want to limit their
Yes.
possibilities in a way. Right?
And the other thing is pure maths that may not at the moment have any obvious application still is worthwhile in terms of developing problem-solving skills and logical thinking
Yeah.
and so on as well. So it has value for learners in that way, I guess.
Yes, right? Because mathematics education is an issue that in Korea many people are interested in. It's a political issue, social issue. Everybody's somehow interested in what to do, what's going wrong, and what to do about it. And of course it's difficult, but I say, meanwhile, there are many people who speak as though if you go to some other country, they've solved this problem.
Oh,
In Korea, people often have this imagination. So what would you say to that?
certainly
Certainly
not.
you haven't solved it.
Yes,
here,
we
so
haven't solved it here, and there's a lot of struggles to go, I think. Yes, we have some ideas of things we're trying to do that will help, but yes, it's
and
not
it's good for
easy.
different countries, I think, to learn from each other and
Yes.
learn ideas and so on. But I don't know any country where they've found a satisfactory solution to the problem of teaching mathematics.
Yes, challenging one.